Good morning, dear students. Today we will study about harmful and beneficial microorganisms. Okay, let's start. Microorganisms can be helpful as well as harmful to us. Okay, so how they can be harmful as well as useful we will study in this particular video. Not all the microorganisms are bad and not all will be good. Some of them can be helpful to us, and how they can be helpful to us in human body. Large number of bacteria are present in the gut. They help us to digest the food, especially plant food. Some of them release several acids that do not allow harmful bacteria to remain inside the body. Some of them are also helpful to synthesize the vitamin K for the body. Okay, so how they are helpful in food industry? Microorganisms can be helpful in food industry in many ways. We will study them one by one. They can be helpful in making dosa, idli, and making them curd for milk. Okay, so let's study about them. In making curd and cheese, microorganisms help us to convert milk into curd. A bacteria that is known as lactobacillus help out to convert the milk into curd. The bacteria is added to milk and they let it for some time, then it got converted into, the bacteria starts growing it in its number under favorable conditions, and then after some time what will happen, the milk got converted into curd. Okay, so different types of bacteria are used for making kind of cheese also, each with its own unique taste and texture. So I already assigned you the task of doing or converting milk into curd. Okay, in baking industry we all know, by in making of bread, cake, okay, idli, dosa, pav bhaji, pav also, there the microorganisms are used to trap the carbon dioxide in the dough and causes the dough to rise in volume. When a bread or cake is baked at high temperature, the gas bubbles burst, letting carbon dioxide escape and making the food item porous and spongy also. So let's move to next one. In preparing alcoholic beverages, yeast is used in brewing alcohols. This process is also called fermentation. This yeast feeds onto the sugar content in various fruits, rice, wheat, or barley. At the end, due to anaerobic respiration, the sugar is converted into alcohol and carbon dioxide gas, which is released. Okay, you can see yeast plus glucose provides us alcohol plus carbon dioxide as a food. Okay, certain edible seaweeds contain large amount of fibers and proteins, so we have been consumed as food for hundred of the years. Red alga, green alga, and brown alga are some of the edible food items, and some mushrooms are also edible. Some can be harmful also. Okay, so most of the consumed mushrooms is the button mushrooms, and make it up of 40% of the mushroom grown around the world. Okay, in preparation of antibodies and vaccines, microorganisms are very much helpful in the field of medicine also. They produces antibodies in our body that can improve our immunity, as well as they help us to fight against the certain disease. So they are used for the benefit of our health also. Vaccines, some of the disease got spread like chickenpox, typhoid, hepatitis, cholera, measles, and polio also, and they can be controlled by the vaccinations. So the vaccines are provided, and these vaccines entered in our body through the needle. Okay, and then they stops the growth of pathogens in our body, and they increase the immunity of the body also. Okay, let's move further. Nitrogen fixation and nitrogen cycle. We all know with the continuous cultivation of crops, the soil become deficient in some nutrients like nitrogen, and we all know nitrogen, although it is present in abundant in the atmosphere, we all know it is more than 78% in the atmosphere, but neither plants nor human beings or animals can directly take the nitrogen from the atmosphere. That nitrogen is got converted into soluble form by a bacteria known as rhizobium in the roots of the nodules plants of the leguminous plants, and then they converts the atmospheric nitrogen into soluble form, and then that nitrogen is transferred to the plants through the stems. Okay, in this way the nitrogen is fixed in the environment, and a continuous process in which nitrogen is converted into a form that is needed by plants and animals and then returned back to the atmosphere is called nitrogen cycle. Okay, we will see this cycle also. You can see nitrogen from the atmospheric nitrogen got through the clouds or through the rain, it is transferred to the soil, and through soil nitrogen fixing bacteria will converts them, okay, into ammonia, and it got converted into nitrifying bacteria, and nitrifying bacteria got converts into nitrates, and nitrates got converted into denitrification bacteria. Okay, and then it is denitrification and back to atmosphere also. In this way the nitrogen cycle is completed. Okay, so another use of microorganisms are increasing soil fertility. Microorganisms can also be used to increase the soil fertility. The root nodules of various leguminous plants are seen. They show the symbiotic relationship where the bacteria converts atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates for the plants, while the plants gives shelter and food to the bacteria. We have learnt about crop rotation where leguminous plants grow alternatively with cereals crops to improve the soil fertility. Okay, let's move further. Keeping the environment clean, many microorganisms decompose the dead and the decaying organic waste of plants and animals into simpler substances. These become a part of the soil and are used by other plants for their growth. Thus, they act as the cleansing agent of the nature. Imagine what would happen if these microbes did not act upon the dead organisms. The whole earth would have been huge garbage dump. Certain bacteria is used to clean up the oil spills, thus reducing the impact on the water bodies. Hence, they are also known as pollution fighters also. Okay, so now proceed to the second segment of this chapter. This chapter, harmful microorganisms. Till now we studied about uh, useful microorganisms. Now everything has its two sides. If some are beneficial, then others can also be harmful to us also. We have learned many ways in which microorganisms are useful to us, but some of them can also be cause of disease in plants, animals, and human beings. These disease causing microorganisms are called pathogens or germs. The harmful effect of microorganisms can be categorized into two groups: causing disease in plants, animals, and human beings. Food spoilage. Okay, also the disease causing microorganisms, the pathogens can be transferred from an infected person to a healthy person through many ways. Either it can be through air, water, food, by direct contact, or by some carrier also. Such disease are called communicable or disease or infectious disease. Infectious. Let's learn a few ways through which pathogens can enter the body. Disease spread by air. How the disease can be spread by air? Let's study about. When person suffering from common cold or cough sneezes or cough, the thousands of the pathogens are released into the air. When these are inhaled by a healthy person, they may cause infection in them. Tuberculosis, chickenpox, and measles are some disease spread by the air. Okay, let's study some more about disease spread by food and water. There are more than 10 million cases of food poisoning reported in India every year. Okay, very surprising or eyes opening fact it is. So the disease spread by contaminated food and water are called waterborne disease, and foodborne disease are also there. This spread when contaminated water is used for drinking, bathing, washing and preparation of foods. Water and food get contaminated due to unhygienic conditions or lack of sanitation. Okay, polio, cholera, typhoid, scabies, botulism are some disease spread by the food and the water. Let's move further. Disease spread by vector. Vector means some carrier which is it can be a mosquito or bee also. Okay, pathogens can also spread from an infected person to a healthy person. Though insects such as mosquitoes and houseflies, they are called a vector or carrier of disease. For example, malaria is a vector-borne disease. When female Anopheles mosquito bites a person suffering from malaria, pathogens from that person enters the mosquito along with the blood. Now, when the same mosquito bites a healthy person, the pathogens enters his or her body, multiplies, and then healthy person may also get infected with malaria. Dengue is another disease caused by various and is virus and is spread by Aedes mosquitoes. In the same way, when houseflies sit on garbage or dirt, the pathogens stick on their body. When food is left uncovered, these flies sit on the transmitting the pathogens to the food. When the healthy person eats that food, the contaminated food items, he or she may get infected with the disease. Gastroenteritis, diarrhea, and food poisoning are the disease caused by the contaminated foods. Okay. Now, how the food got spoiled? What are the causes of food being spoiled over there? Microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi grow on the food items containing moisture and produce toxic substances. These make the food poisonous. Eating such food items can lead to the food poisoning, which can have disastrous effect. Raw food items, unwashed fruits and vegetables, meats, chicken, and milk may also contain microorganisms which are harmful to humans. Okay, so now you can see in the image also how the tomato got spoiled by the microorganisms. Food preservation, the process of preventing food from being spoiled by following various technique is known as preservation. It helps to store food for a longer duration, retain the color, flavor, texture, and nutritive value, and stops or prevent the growth of microbes in the food. Methods to preserve food. Sun drying, it is one of the traditional method for preserving food. Microbes such as bacteria and fungi need moisture to grow and multiply, so the moisture content in the food is removed by drying it in the sun. Wheat, rice, pulses, spices are cleaned and dried in the sun before storing. Okay, drying also reduces the weight, and as the food can be carried easily. Okay, other methods are heating. Total 9 methods we will study. Heating, most of the microorganisms get killed at high temperature. That is why the milk and the water is heated before consumption. Milk can be preserved by partial sterilization, where it is breasted at 135 degrees Celsius for a few seconds and then stored into a sterilized container. Freezing is another method, very low temperature. Similarly, when at high temperature the growth of microorganisms stops or got killed. Similarly, these microorganisms stops their growth at low temperature also. So freezing can also be an important task in that. Adding salt. This method is used to preserve meat, fish, fruits and vegetables. Okay, pickles, chips. Salt removes the moisture from the food like fish and the meat and thus prevents growth of microbes. Adding sugar, jam, jellies and fruits squashes are stored by the method. This method is so it also inhibits the growth of microbes by reducing the moisture content of the food. Adding oil and vinegar, pickles, fruits, fish, meat are preserved in oil and vinegar also. Pasteurization, this method is mainly used to preserve milk. It is first heated about 70 degrees Celsius and for a few seconds and then immediately cooled to 10 degrees Celsius. This destroys the microorganisms and can be stored up to a certain time. This was discovered by Louis Pasteur and thus the technique is named after him. Other method is canning. Okay. After heating, the food is stored in air-tight container to keep away microorganisms. Okay. You can see in the picture also use of chemical preservatives also. Chemicals such as sodium benzoate and sodium metabenzoate are used to store jams, jellies, ketchups and fruit juices also. Okay. Now you can see some disease those can be caused. See some disease that can be caused in human beings. I will discuss few of them. Okay, for example, typhoid bacteria is responsible for it, and food and water can be the mode of spreading. Proper sanitization, avoiding uncovered and unclean food, drinking clean water can prevent this disease. AIDS can also be a dangerous disease, life threatening disease. HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, is responsible for it. Blood transfusion can be a cause. Sharing needles can also be a cause. From mother to child during pregnancy can also be mode of spreading. Medication, immediate medical care during the pregnancy, not sharing needles can also prevent this disease. Okay, let's move further. Some common infectious disease in animals are, we'll study about two disease in cattle as well as in fish also. Foot and mouth disease, responsible is virus, air, direct contact and infected animals, isolation of sick animals, vaccination, maintaining proper hygiene. Rinderpest is in cattle, virus, infected water, air, direct contact with an infected animal. Medication is an option to prevent it. Tail rot or fin rot, fish will be the victim animal. Bacterium, infected water or injury. Isolating diseased animals using antibodies also, antibiotics, sorry. Let's move further. Some disease those can be caused into plants also. Tobacco mosaic disease, tobacco and tomato plants can get affected from this causative pathogens. Tobacco mosaic virus is responsible for this. Air, by handling plants during the transplanting or using tools infected with viruses. Leaf rust, wheat, fungi and air. Citrus canker, lime, orange, grapefruit can also be the plants got affected. Bacteria, okay, and air will be the mode of spreading in it. So you can see the concept mapping what we studied in this particular chapter. It is microorganisms can be classified as bacteria, fungi, protozoa, algae and viruses. can be harmful, can be useful or beneficial. It is curding of milk, fermentation, antibiotics, antibiotics, vaccines, cleaning the environment, increasing the soil fertility. Harmful, they cause disease in plants, human and animals. Food spoilage can also be another cause of harmful microorganisms. Food preservation can be done in some techniques are discussed over there. Sun drying, heating and freezing, adding salt, sugar, oil and vinegar. Canning is also an option over there. Using chemical preservatives also was the other option over there. So these are some keywords what we studied in this particular chapters. Microorganisms, very small organisms that can only be seen under a microscope. Fermentation, conversion of sugar into acid or alcohol by the action of microorganisms. Antibiotics, medicines that destroy certain disease causing microorganisms. Vaccine, a biological pre, uh, preparation of weakened or killed disease causing microbes that stimulates the production of antibodies in the body. Okay, pathogens, disease causing microorganisms. Communicable disease causes by pathogens can spread one person to another person. Food preservation, methods used to preserve food and avoid spoilage of the food caused by the microbes. Okay, thank you so much guys. Okay boys, take care. Thank you. For any query you can directly contact to me or administer your query on my personal number. Thank you so much boys. Thank